You know, I get fired up when we get these living legends on the line. It's Demetrious Johnson, the mightiest of all the mice. But how about One Fight Night 10, Friday, May 5th, Broomfield, Colorado, the U.S. invasion and a Trilogy title fight. Hey, this is going to be a pretty good night at the office, Demetrious Johnson. This is a big deal here.
Yeah, it's big. One Championship's coming to America, home of martial arts. Not just going to be mixed martial arts, kickboxing, Muay Thai, submission wrestling on the card, and you got the Trilogy, me, Adriano. So I'm super excited.
I mean, this is the big deal. I mean, when you get signed as a free agent and the splashes and the trade and all that stuff, in a lot of ways, the promotion's building to a moment like this. Is it any extra special for you to be the headliner in the face of this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I've headlined a lot of big cards. If I look down at my history of like what I've accomplished or what I've done in mixed martial arts in general, I always tell everybody my claim to fame is that I fought in front of Star-Lord, Chris Pratt at the Staples Center in LA. So, I fought it, in front of the biggest stars, movie stars in America. So with me being able to headline in Colorado, it's just another thing I can say that I've done. But yeah, so yeah, there you go. Don't know how to answer that one. I mean, I answered it, but I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for. So for me, it's another fight. It's another fight. It's another card. I've been in this position before, and I'm just going to go out there and compete and do my best.
Yeah, but I mean, the pandemic may have slowed the promotion's plans, but when they make this long-awaited move, they went to you. They went to this rivalry. That does speak large about the Demetrious Johnson era of One Championship.
Yeah, I think they believe in my brand. I haven't had a boring fight in One Championship yet. The Rod Ting fight was a banger. The second Adriano fight was a banger. The first one was kind of, we didn't get a chance to be a banger because I was trying to get to him. And as I was trying to force myself to get to him, I ended up getting caught. I take a lot of risk when I fight. I was talking to the coaches about that, and they're saying like people who never take risks will never be big. They will never have a good enough brand or exciting brand for people to get behind. So for me, I've taken risks my whole entire career in my fights. People are like, oh, you never took a risk against Tia Dillashaw. They didn't want to pay your boy. So, but taking risk in my fights, you look at the Kyojo Horiguchi fight, last second armbar. Look at the Ray Borg fight, the Mighty Wiz Bar. All those fights I was winning. I didn't have to take a risk on opposition to myself to go for, an amazing submission. So for me, I'm always taking a risk. And the last fight, I took risk too by pushing the pace. I was on my back a lot, but hey, that's what you got to do when it comes to fighting.
You tend to have, though, these spectacular moments when you mix the risk with your outstanding skill. So when we're talking about the rematch with Adriano Moraes, where you claim the title, for you to do it in almost the exact way he finished you in the first fight in this rivalry, I mean, it's like one of those chef kisses moments that have followed your career, like the last second submission. I mean, you wouldn't have known it in real time that you could put both finishes up against each other, and it's just like, damn. But there's something artistic to that, Mouse. I mean, that's pretty wild, the way that you finished him the same way he got you.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different. When people say the same way, it's like totally different techniques. The technique he used was I was a grounded opponent trying to get up, trying to recover. And, it's almost like put on a platter. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting dropped. I'm trying to get up. So to line up that kill shot was a lot easier than mine, where mine was he's falling backwards in live time. And then I'm timing that cage, that reverb effect. And as I have to line myself up to make that picture perfect shot. So where mine was legal in the whole entire world. I could have done it in the UFC, PFL, Bellator, wouldn't have been legal, where his was only eligible in One Championship in Asia. So when people was like, oh man, it was same body part, left knee, 1000%, but same setup, same rules and all that stuff. Mine's multiverse. His only stays in one verse.
Great correction right there. I appreciate that. Friday, May 5th. You see things differently than we all do, and that's the greatness right there. But Friday, May 5th, we can see this Trilogy fight on Prime Video, the U.S. debut for one. But for you in this fun rivalry with Adriano Moraes, who is just massive for this weight class, I hope we can always say that. So when you come back and topple him, it felt like a major moment. Now we're going to do it a third time for that flyweight title. this rivalry, I don't think it was one you had circled on your bingo card that would become this level to this layer. But what does this rivalry mean when you look back over your whole career and this opponent in general?
You know, it's funny you say rivalry, and these aren't my words. These are words from other, I guess you say interviewers. They're like, this isn't really a rivalry. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, it's so short, right? Like when you look at my, my John Dotson, my Joseph Benavidez uh, fights, or even my email, always back to back. But this one's kind of back to back. I feel like, you look at rivalries, the greatest rivalries in mixed martial arts history. You look at John Jones versus Daniel Cormier. You even look at Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart, right? It's a long buildup. They're always behind each other's river mirror. They're always intertwined in each other's life, right? You look at when I fought Joseph Benavidez, we fought at UFC 152 in Toronto, and then, I ended up beating him. Then he went off and won 3 fights. I went off and won 3 fights. Then we got intermingled again. Our paths kind of converged together, right? Where I'm at press conference, I'm like, oh, would you see Joseph fight? I'm like, yeah, I saw a fight. He looked great, Same thing with John Dotson. We fought at, January 2013. And then fast forward to UFC 197. We're fighting again after he went off and did 3. He was knocking out everybody. He was becoming the boogeyman. He was knocking people out. And then it was almost like we came back together. So with me and Adriano, it doesn't really feel like the same rivalry because it's back to back. Like we fight in 2021, I got knocked out. Then I fought Rodtang, and then we fight again, and now we're fighting again. So there's only been a 9-month separation between us. So we haven't had that kind of buzz I've had in the past as a rivalry. Great. It's going to be another great fight, great opponent. But when I compare it to my other, and this all came from somebody else pointing it out to me. I was like, holy shit, you know what? You're actually right. And then I was like, you know what? You're kind of right. It's like the Turtles and Shredder. It wasn't 2 episodes. It wasn't 3 episodes. It was a lifelong. It was lifelong. That was kind of like the synopsis. So for this, this would be the last time, whether win, lose, or draw, our storylines would never converge unless a huge bag of money comes into my lap. So for me, it's it's a great fight, another opponent. But when I look back on my career as the substance of rivalry, where I have to talk about this person for months, even years. Sure. This is a very short one because we're short. Back. Now, if he would have went back and fought like Yuya Wakamatsu again, and he fought Reese McLaren and somebody else, and then I went off, I fought Kyra Akhmatov, and then another guy, and then we came back and we're both in each other's river mirror. Different story, but this isn't the case for this one.
Well, they had to give you a big enough bag to do this one a third time. So did you?
No, they didn't. They could give me anybody because they knew I wanted to go out there and fucking fight my ass off. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you want to get to in a point in career. Like when I look at other stars in mixed martial arts, when John Jones fights, doesn't matter who he fights. When Conor McGregor fights, doesn't matter who he fights. That was my goal. It doesn't matter whether I win, lose, draw. I want to be a draw. So for me, I mean, they obviously gave me Adriano. Obviously, they gave me Adriano Moraes, but if they would have gave me Kyra Akhmatov, the fans know when I go out there, I'm going to blow the fucking roof off. Like I'm going to take the fight to that person. So it doesn't matter for me. I don't care who I'm fighting. I'm going to go take it to him.
Well, this all plays into my next question because you're 36 and you've still got it in such a huge way among the pound for pound best today. And obviously on that short list of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport. But I see headline from Ariel and DJ sitting down. Hey, maybe this could be my last fight. I don't believe that, Demetrious Johnson, because you're too great. Here's your problem. You're too great still. All right. That's the deal. That's what happens.
Yeah, but you look at the greats like Khabib Nurmagomedov, you look at Georges St-Pierre, they were still great. They were still in their prime and they walked away from the sport. I mean, even Henry Cejudo, he walked away from the sport, took 3 years off, and it's coming back. Granted, if I took 3 years off and came back to the sport, I'd be 39. So that wouldn't be happening. But for me, I've relied so much on my body to make my money, make a living. And I think, I got to start thinking about other things. I think what's made me so successful in mixed martial arts is I put so much effort and energy into my training camp that everything else I can't really grow in everywhere else in life. What I mean by that is like businesses or working on the next thing in life. And I think that's something that my mind is starting to get to. Like, hey, you're 36 years old. You got to start thinking about life outside of fighting. And that's where that comes from. So, I told my wife, I said, hey, after this fight, I'm going to go on the beach. We're going on vacation and I'm going to sit down. And I'm literally going to talk about it. I was like, hey, this is my last fight. Whether I win, lose, and draw. So I'm just gonna. It's more of a mindset that I have. Like as an athlete, oh, dude, I would love to fight till my body can't go anywhere. But the athlete doesn't. The athlete only is around for so long. But a businessman can be around for 80, not 80, but if he's 80 years old, 86, 89 years old. So that's, my mindset I'm having now.
Yeah, I mean, that shows you've always had great fight IQ. That shows your overall understanding of, getting out ahead of time, or when the time is right, can be the strongest chess move you can make in this difficult career. So I'd applaud you if that was the choice. I assume you're not going to know until you know. So when you enter into this, are there still challenges left out there that motivate you beyond this fight?
Honestly, it's the challenges that motivate me. What motivates me is to be able to provide for my family, right? And I know that fighting is doing that right now, and I want something else to be able to do that as well. So that's what's kind of like motivating me, challenging me. It's like, hey, can I go do X, Y, and Z, right? I mean, the other challenge that's challenging me that gets me like up is like competing in my gi, because I've never done it before, right? I've run titles in the two biggest organizations in the world. I've done that, right? And and I defended the one in North America. Now here's my opportunity to defend it here in one championship. And after that, it's about making as much money as possible. I mean, that's always been my goal ever since I got into the sport. When I got into sport in 2006, no, not 2006. When I got into sport and I got my first paycheck, I was like, oh man, I made $500, 500 the show, 500 the fight, made $1,000, and I was still working full time. Then it got to a point where it was like, hey, can I make enough money so I can just do this full time? I've got to that point. Now I'm making great money. Now I'm taking the money I made from fighting and investing in other stuff where that can make me more money, so I don't need to fight anymore. Like that should be every athlete's goal, right? Like I was talking to someone and they said those are the athletes like I can relate to. Like an athlete was like, man, I want to be the best in the world. At one point in my life, that was something I can relate to because I wanted to be that. But now that I have become that, now I'm looking, to make as much money, take care of my wife and kids. So when I see other athletes like, Rafion Stouts, he just got knocked out by Patchy Mix, and I felt bad. I was like, damn. I was like, I was going for, I don't know Patchy Mix's story. But I'm sure he has the same story. But when Rafion Stouts, I talked to him personally, he goes, man, I'm trying to get this money. I'm trying to make this money, pay for these diapers, these kids and whatnot. I was like, I feel you. I'm on that same level. I'm riding with you. I'm Richie, dog. For me, like to be the best fighter in the world and all that stuff, for me to get behind somebody and follow their story, it's not enough for me anymore. And I was like, it's just not enough. So I went on a tangent, but yeah, so we'll see. There's always challenges out there, but right now the first challenge is Adriano Moraes, and then after that, I'll go on vacation with my wife and kids. I'll sit on the beach and contemplate like, hey, do I still want to fight? Because can I still fight? Yeah, 1000%. But I think there's got to be a point in time where the athletes got to, like, hey, we got to start finding other ways to make money to provide for their wife and kids, because you can't fight forever.
I mean, maybe you can win, season 2 of The Apprentice One Championship Edition and, get into business with Shotri. It's possible, right? It's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Definitely possible. But, for me, I know the type of person I am. I like to have my freedom. That's the one thing I will say I will miss about being, when I do leave the sport of mixed martial arts. Like I'll always compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I think the freedom you have to come and go as a fighter, where it's like, I show up, I train for 8 weeks, I fight, make a big check, go off and take care of the wife and kids. I think as my CPA tells me, you need to find things that your money works harder than you do. She's always told me that. And that's always been in the back of my mind. So that's what I need to focus on. That's where that, like, this could be my last fight, where it's like, I need to focus on what's going to make more money for me than fighting ever does, where I don't have to work as hard.
Interesting way to look at it. I like it. How different do you think this third fight will be than the first two in this rivalry? What are you expecting from Adriano Moraes or here in the final duel? Because, the winner, they win this rivalry. Okay. That matters.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I mean, me and Henry Cejudo, we still talk, and we're like, yeah, if they gave us like $6 million, we'll finish this rivalry. So I've never been a type of person who's been like, cared if I, I mean, yeah, as a competitor, you kind of care, but I was telling my buddy, I was like, none of this shit exists unless you go on the internet. Like, if you delete Twitter, Instagram, stay off the internet, and you're just in your house, like nothing ever happened. So, but yeah, I mean, well, we'll see who wins. I'm not too concerned about that, I guess you can say.
Or what if somebody's listening to this and going, man, it sounds like DJ's got one foot out into money making retirement here. Is the focus there? Is it the same? Because they'll say that, Demetrious. You don't.
I can say, come look at my training footage. Then you be the question. You can make a decision. And I've always been like this. You know how many times I remember when I was about to fight for the world title at UFC 152, I was in the process. I was doing interviews, and between interviews, I was literally trying to buy a house on the biggest night of me trying to, like, you got to have this stuff, because me sitting here thinking about fighting 24/7 gets fucking boring. It truly does. Like, it does for me. It's like, all I need to do is train, go out there. And I know, get back to the context of this question, is I know where he's good at, and I know where he wants to be. I know where I'm good at, and I know where I want to be. I've always been a person who's gone out there, pushed the pace, gotten into my opponent's face, and taking risks. And when you take risks, sometimes you get hit with fire and you can't recover from the fire. But for me, I'm focused on going out there and competing and see what happens.
Well, it's going to be the first time One Championship promotes a card in the U.S. Friday, May 5th. Prime Video is the spot. Broomfield, Colorado. It's the third dance with Adriano Moraes. DJ, always a pleasure to chat with you and hear the detailed workings of your inner mind. Good luck to you. This whole rivalry's been spectacular. I can't wait to see what tricks you pull in this one. Okay, because there are always a few steps ahead, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.